some water in it. Yeah? You can have mine, because I can pinch one that's harder. Yeah, absolutely. I know this feeling very well.
But I've got another one, but we're desperate.
That's not bad.
We get desperate.
So we'll just find out who hasn't got what they need. Yeah, I said we were doing it after lunch. I try and do the little bit that you can.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah. So who hasn't got a, you haven't got a water bottle? But you've got the material and the, anyone else hasn't got one of them? You don't have a water bottle? You can probably use, has anyone else got an extra water bottle? Jane? Yeah? You'll just have to put some water in it, Jane. Half. And I'm going to pinch your bottle. Yeah? So has everyone got a bottle, a piece of material? And do you want to come in a bit closer, because you're going to be doing some stuff in pairs, so. Okay. A cup in your water bottle. So this idea originally came from Alan Questel, who did this, I think it was the Melbourne 3 training, Melbourne 4, where he was trying to look at different types of touch we use in Feldenkrais, and from that, a few of us have developed it a little bit more into how different touches evoke different organisations. And for you to understand that we use many, many different types of touch in Feldenkrais. And we're always adapting, and they always evoke different things. So could you take your piece of material first? And we could check who's got the nicest piece of material. Yeah, it's always a competition in scarves. This is where you find out exactly how many people have got whole things of scarves at home. That, yeah. So take your piece of material and really just simply feel, how would you feel for this? What part of your hands would you feel? To get a sense of this material. Mainly fingertips. Well, you could go to your face, but if we were just using it with... Back of the hand. If you wanted to hold it, though, you would probably... No? You could definitely stroke it all over you, especially this beautiful thing. Beautiful silk. But just feel, as you're doing that, how much does your pelvis want to move? Does it want to really move very much? No. Yeah. Doesn't mean it couldn't move. Could you feel that where you're sitting, you could really, it's not as if you're in a position where you couldn't move your pelvis? But there's something about this very fine touch that doesn't ask you to move a lot. No? And it would be generally, you'd be using the pads of your fingers probably more, any part of your hand really, but this is the area where there's the most sensory receptors, where you're really going to be able to make very fine distinctions about texture, feel, temperature, smoothness, softness. What are some other words that you can feel when you do this?
Synthetic, natural.
Synthetic. It's true though. You can. They're very different. Feels soft, hard, compact, smooth. Yeah. Sorry, Margaret? Yeah, how much does it move? Whatever. Springiness, absolutely. Springiness. Yeah. Thickness. Yeah. Whether there's knots in it, whether it changes its texture. Yeah, temperature. You can. You probably have to. Sorry? You just make it. Okay. So again, really feel that you aren't, when you're feeling like this, people just don't move much. So what does that say about when we want to make really fine distinctions with our fingers?
Smaller movements makes them stay still.
Yeah. Maybe there's a stillness in us that it does allow us to make a finer distinction. So Phil, if you started moving your pelvis around, would you be able to sense those distinctions as well?
Yeah, but in relationship to the pelvis moving, so there would be a broader spread of focus.
Broader spread of focus, but you probably wouldn't be able to make the same level of distinctions because you're distracted. You're distracted. Yeah, you're distracted a little bit. Okay, so who would need this? Who would need this ability to be able to do really fine movements? So if you think of any occupation that needs really fine movements, can you think of any? A cartographer. How much would they be moving? Not at all. Yeah? Someone making fine adjustments on a microscope? Yeah? Dentists probably don't move a lot because they've got to have these fine... Doesn't mean they can't move, but that they have to find some sort of stillness in them. So jewelers, surgeons, when they're doing very, very fine, especially when they're doing all the things with looking and, manipulating a lot of the robotic things. Anything else that you could think of when you would use it? Depends on the art. But if you were doing something very detailed.
The other day and unscrewed it all and see how tiny the screws are.
You can't have an iPhone. Aren't they designed that you can't take them apart?
Oh!
I thought they had particular screws and that they... Blind people who have to have very, very fine touch to feel things. So can you think of anything else you might do in your normal day? That sewing, absolutely. If you're doing very fine needlework, you don't want to sort of be... Usually that would involve... It's not so fine as... Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, absolutely. Making lures for fly fishing. Finding ticks on your dog. Really though, you know, you've got to be really, really fine. Yeah, finding lice in hair. Yes, we did. Yeah, you want to stay pretty still, probably. Okay, so could you get with a partner and just get a sense of what you would feel for if you were using this type of touch on them? And you can just do it. And where would it make more sense? Would it be to feel bones, to feel muscle? Just have an explore on their leg or their arm, whatever you like. And really feel what's evoked in your organisation when you do this. So you're just really using your fingertips. Yeah? Okay. Just come down, come down, come down. So you're just using fingertips and you're looking to make fine distinctions with your touch. So one of you is touching the other, and then I'll say change over. So one of you is touching the other, and you're really just making fine distinctions. So one of you is touching the other with this sense of touch, not on yourself. No, you're not doing anything. You're just touching the other person and feeling if you use this sort of touch, what sort of distinctions can you make? So what sort of distinctions can you make with this where you're looking to make fine distinctions? And the person who's being touched, just see what does this do to your attention, to your state? Again, we were talking about words like, you know, temperature, texture, tension, or whether there's a difference, lumps or shape. And really just notice how still you are. So you're not feeling really for movement, you're just really feeling fine, fine touch. What can I pick up? Okay, and just bring it to a pause. And then change over. And really notice as you're making these very fine distinctions, what's the timing that happens? Is there something about, it's really interesting that as soon as you're making these fine distinctions, you automatically slow down. It's as if your system knows that to make fine distinctions, I need to slow down and use less effort. Great, and bring it to a close. So what was just share with each other, what were some of the things you noticed from doing that? Okay, so anything you'd like to sort of share in the bigger group about that? About where it took you in your state or the distinctions you could make? Yeah, Simon.
Yeah, as she was moving across my vertebra, absolutely had a settling effect, and I could just felt, because I was sitting cross-legged, all of a sudden my thighs and big muscle groups just started relaxing, and I was sinking and it's being soothed.
Would people say generally that might be something that happens, that it's like the system just starts to calm down? And I always find this fascinating because I don't like light touch a lot. It's not my preferred thing. But if someone sticks at it, you know, within 30 seconds I'll be... but even if the initial reaction is, oh, it's a bit...
It depends how people touch. Some people can touch you lightly and feels okay, and some people... I think it depends very much on the intention of the touching person too, because someone can touch you just hesitantly, and someone can touch you with a still light, but with the direction in mind. Or it sounds like weird.
I agree with you totally.
Yeah,
and that's where, you know, we're doing it where you can feel that you're settled. It would be absolutely different if I'm on high alert and I'm touching someone. That's going to give a... So there's something about, again, this dance that happens that hopefully both of you felt that your systems started to come down. And I think what's really interesting is when we use light touch like this, what are the things that we notice? What are the questions that just seem that we don't make happen, but that just sort of tend to formulate, or that we tend to be interested in exploring? So when would you use this if you were working with someone?
We were realising that in doing those exercises where we've been standing behind someone and holding their C7 and directing them subtly, or having your hands on their head and just really, really shifting the weight of a person, which is so paradoxical because it's affects a large change, but it's with the lightest, most sensitive
lightest of touches. And when do you want to evoke that lightness of touch? So an example would be if I want to feel the movement at the top of her skull on her neck, I am going to have the lightest of touches to go in and feel that. Because I want to be feeling very, very fine distinctions, which is totally different to if I want to feel her pelvis. So it's the level of the distinction you're trying to make. It's the, you know, the subtlety of the, am I looking just for this little joint, or even though I've got the big picture, but I'm looking, and that lightness of touch, because of the nature of the touch, isn't inviting you to move your pelvis. Can you feel that when I go in that lightly? It's just not inviting. It's there, it's in my image, but you can feel, because it's an incredibly light touch, that I'm asking something very different. So next bit's your squishy bottle. So how would you hold a squishy bottle? Would you hold it with your fingertips? No. Can you feel that? It just, usually that would not be a way that you would expect. And that's why I always find those English teacups, even though I love them, so ridiculous, you know, where you've got this tiny little thing to hold. Anyway, so go back and do your light touch and just feel, what does that feel like? Even though I'm not moving, what's the sense inside of me? The sense of space. And again, we said you're pretty still. So often when you're here, you're not really ready to go in one direction more than another. So come to your squishy bottle and feel what happens in your, I'm not going to use the word core. What happens in the middle of you to hold a bottle? Can you feel something has to organise? Because there's absolutely different feedback now coming in through your hands. Absolutely. It's a different muscular demand. So you can feel something's had to have woken up in you a little bit more, in your middle. Maybe your legs have woken up just a little bit more. And then feel with this grip, this one's, how much you can change the grip. So you could be a little bit pushing or a big bit pushing so that you can have a little bit more or less power. And can you change that without holding your breath? And feel what that's got to do with having shoulder blades, having collarbones. Whereas if you grip it and just use your hand, what happens? This is for you, Karen. Because many people, to grip harder, just use these small muscles here. You start getting RSI very quickly. Yeah. So how do you get that I can squeeze something and it's coming from all of me? There's something happening in my middle. And usually it's interesting, the more you squeeze, the taller you get. Yeah. With your whole hand, especially the palm. Yeah? Especially finding the palm, which is really important for Feldenkrais work. I was saying a little bit about this the other day, to find that difference between using your palm and using your fingers, your fingertips. No? So you can really feel, if you want to squeeze this with your fingertips, most people are going to have to effort somewhere in their torso. And as soon as you find the palm, as soon as you find that bigger movement, it's a really different organisation. And
you can still do that for another purpose.
Absolutely. Quite. And it's is it soft? It is soft, but it's, you can move. Yeah? Absolutely. So feel when you're holding it with however much force you want. If you went to move the bottle through space, where would you go? What directions would you head off in? And is your pelvis ready to follow it? Yeah. And then use your fingertips more. Is your pelvis ready to follow you now? No. No. Go back and find your palm again. And it's really interesting, and maybe it's because you're aping me, I don't know. But what you'll usually see with this sort of grip is that people stay in this range where they're moving across the ground. Now, they're moving across the ground. It's like, you know, you could do this big stirring pot. So you can move in many directions, but it's usually as a translation. Yeah? So just see if you can feel the difference if you started to try and lift it. Where you're putting a lift in, which is what we were. Can you feel it's, you're going to have to effort. Can you feel something is going to change with this type of grip? So when would I use, and we're going to do this on each other, when would you use this sort of grip? I use this a lot in FI. Anything where I'm moving someone across the ground. Anything. So all of those setups that we were doing, moving the pelvis across the ground, I'll have usually a fair bit of palm in there. And I'll be organised to follow the person. Nope. We'll see. We'll see. It's not usually for lifting. No? So could you explore that with someone? No? So how would you want to hold someone? Where would you want to hold someone like this? If you were going to think of this squishy bottle, where are the handles you'd go for? And you might want to hold their arm and feel, could I take them somewhere with this handle? It's fine. Just don't lift anything. So again, feel your organisation, because again, this is the dance. So one person's organisation is going to have an absolute impact on the others. Huh? Mm. 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 So just be inventive, try different things. Viv, do you want to do what you were just doing with her head? It's a really nice one. Yeah? All this rolling the head things we've done. Mm-hmm. So you can absolutely roll someone's head. Just play around. So you can absolutely, you can feel you can change the person's shape quite a lot. You just can't lift them. Huh? And really feel what you're feeling for. When you've got squishy bottle, how much of their flesh is in your image? Yeah? Okay, change over if you haven't changed over. We'll be doing more on this, so, but. Well, it's not that you're not allowed to, it's just you're not organised to do it. If you're doing it, I promise you, you're efforting. With this handhold. Okay, so what did you discover there? What did you discover? You can move. You can move someone.
Convey force being a sort of diffuse, like solid.
Yeah, yeah.
There's this, for me at least, a natural feeling of wanting to move along.
Moving along, absolutely. Moving across, moving along. No.
You've got this, I've got all of
I've got all of you. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else people noticed? Distinctions they could make?
If you got something like here, it's less moving with your body to lift, it's more, much easier. But if you tried to hold the finger grip around,
It's not a long lever effect, it's touch. It's the power of touch. It's the power of touch and what you're feeding into their system. Honestly, that's how you're communicating. No? You can talk about it in terms of biomechanics, but it's not. It's touch. It's what you're triggering in their system by the way you're holding them and the way you're organised. Huh? Yeah, the different questions. Is something different evoked for you in that place about what you're interested in exploring, what distinctions you make about the person? Usually, as soon as you get there, it's much easier to get the whole person, which is what a lot of you said. No? So rather than the detail, where you can still have the whole person, this is foreground, this generally is a way of moving someone through space, but across space. Yeah? So what are some ATMs that we'd use this in? That's lifting. What are the ones we'd use it in? All the rolling on the ground. Yeah? All the rolling we do. Not so much coming up, but even the rolling to sit up. Again, you can get someone up, but it's more work. Yeah? Well, I'll show you in a second, that one. Okay. So again, different touch evokes very different response in my organisation as the practitioner and in the person that I'm touching. Yeah?
Thinking also you're going this direction with the squidgy bottle, which is the proximal and not too far out.
Yeah, it's very proximal. You could see all of you as you had your squishy bottle. You weren't so much doing this. It was much more this central rolling across the ground, which is what we're trying to get with people rolling. How does this central part come in to begin to lighten the arms and the legs?
And you were moving the whole leg. You weren't using your tips of your fingers, and it was that movement. You weren't lifting any of them, and you were just directing in that squishy bottle.
Okay, so now your cups. So what does a cup, what do you do with a cup? What happens in your middle?
You go up, it's like, oh, right in the middle of me, I'm going that way.
Do you feel as fleshy in your hand? Do you think you can feel your bones a little bit more holding the cup? Huh? So again, go back to the squishy bottle. Feel the difference in the sense of your hand when you're holding the squishy bottle, and feel the difference when you hold a cup. Oh. Yeah. This is an absolutely different type of touch being evoked. Huh? What does your pelvis want to do now? Has it woken up a little bit? Something happened? Maybe a little bit more lift in it? So if you, does that really make sense now with this touch to move across the ground? Yeah. Where would you go with your cup? You want to more lift it. Yeah? There's a lot more trajectories automatically tend to... Huh? No, your grip doesn't change.
But your grip can't change.
It can change just a fraction. There is that you could, but you'd have to be careful because it'd be very easy to go to fingertips if you started to grip the cup. So you've still got your whole hand, but it's not this. It's not this. It's... If you did it with two hands, absolutely. What happens then if you do it with two hands? I get some of my clients to walk around with a cup when they can't evoke skeleton. This is skeleton.
You can change the thumbs as well to give you more.
Yeah, there's... No? How much can you change your cup around? No? What becomes available in your forearm, in your wrist? When you get this, again, go back to squish your bottle. What does that evoke in your forearm and your wrist? Can you feel it's just a different organisation? Huh? Yep, this one's exactly like when we were pressing the ruler. Absolutely, Nicole. Yeah?
Can we compare this to the skin?
Absolutely.
Tissue and muscles and...
You can, except now we're going into what movements are evoked from it. Yeah? So if you are now going to go with your partner to find this touch, where would you want to touch them? Bone.
It's bony.
It's going to be very difficult to get that touch through a lot of flesh. No? Which doesn't mean that you can't still move someone across the ground, but to evoke that response. So where are all the handles on the skeleton? Where are all the bony bits on the skeleton that are really easy to find? So just feel it on yourself first. Where are the bony bits that it's pretty easy to come in and find bone? These landmarks are what we're after when we're going skeletal. Huh? Yeah, heel's a great handle. We do so much through the heel of going through. Yeah. So can you feel it on your partner? How could you give them a sense of bone? Where would you find this touch? And can you feel, once you're going for bone, can you feel your pelvis is ready to lift? Huh? This is the skeleton. When we talk about skeletal contact, no? But it's one type of touch, and this is where we'd like to get to. Do you know what I mean? That people really understand this skeleton and the lightness, but you have to go through, yeah, and you've got to find where is the person, what do I have to build up here? Yeah? Mm. So your self-use position needs to change to find skeletal contact. If you're not in a position where your pelvis can lift off the floor, you can't evoke skeletal contact because you're not in that state. You won't get it. It's beautiful, Leonie. Can you feel how you've really got her?
No, that's fine.
Leonie, you have to get where your pelvis can lift. See how you're down again? Yeah? You're the same, Anastasia. If you want skeleton, your pelvis has to be able to lift. You cannot do it if your pelvis doesn't lift. Can you feel the difference, Leonie? Yeah? Go, Leonie. Whoa, whoa. It's beautiful. And can you feel, Leonie, there, the distinction that you can pick up really quickly if she's ready to lift or not? Yeah? So we'll do some more of this after lunch, especially with sitting to standing. Huh? And working out what someone's ready to do and how that's going to influence how they come from sitting to standing. Now I'm starting to see some pelvises organised to lift. Yeah? Because it's just that you really need to understand, and there's a lot of practitioners who need to understand this as well. If I'm here working on the floor, which is absolutely fine, I cannot lift the person. I can do as much as I like moving them across the ground. I can do a beautiful lesson, but I cannot from here evoke skeleton, as in skeleton to lift someone in the gravitational field. Huh? So just for a moment with the person, just before we finish, could you feel the difference? If you're simply going to lift someone's shoulder or lift someone's leg, you can do it either way, and feel the difference. If I'm organised to lift my pelvis, what's the difference in how I can lift Martina's leg compared to this, for me, is not an easy position. I'd be doing this. This is what I'd evoke. Huh? Huh? Yeah.
Somebody picks my bones up. No, it would make me really disturbed.
It is annoying. There's mixed messages you're feeding into that person's system. Yeah, mixed messages. Huh? So just try it either with the leg or the shoulders, but just feel that difference. And as I said, you can still do a beautiful, much of the time when I'm working with people, because they still haven't got their skeleton, I've got my skeleton, but I'm still really moving them across the ground. Yeah. But it's the same on the floor. I've got to have. Yeah? Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's really good that you can feel that. Absolutely. These handles, all the condyles, just because, see, as soon as I can get the condyles, can I get it though?
Control kind of